The sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, casting a warm, golden glow throughout the opulent living room of Jonathan and Sarah's lavish home. The walls, adorned with fine art and photographs of the couple during their happier times, echoed with the laughter that once filled the space. Jonathan, a handsome man in his mid-30s, stood near the expansive windows, gazing out at the manicured gardens that surrounded their estate. He was dressed in a tailored suit, his demeanor reflecting the confidence that came with his wealth and success in the business world. However, there was a flicker of something deeper hidden behind his charismatic smile, a longing, perhaps, for a life that seemed just out of reach. "Jonathan, come here." Sarah's voice, sweet yet tinged with urgency, pulled him from his reverie. She was sitting at the dining table, surrounded by an array of baby clothes, toys, and a stack of parenting books that they had recently purchased. Her long, dark hair framed her face, and her bright eyes sparkled with excitement. She had been dreaming of this moment for years, the moment they would finally start their family. "Look at this one," Sarah said, holding up a tiny, pastel-colored onesie with a playful giraffe embroidered on it. "Can you imagine our little one wearing this? It's adorable." Jonathan turned to face her, a smile breaking across his face as he walked over. He leaned down to kiss her forehead, feeling the warmth of her presence. "It is cute. I can already picture the little one crawling around in here, making a mess of everything," he chuckled. Sarah laughed, her joy infectious. "And just think of all the family photos we can take. Our perfect little family." "Perfect," Jonathan echoed, but as he said the word, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his mind. He had always envisioned this future, but the deeper they delved into their plans, the more he felt the weight of expectation pressing down on him. "Let's make sure we're ready for it all," he added, trying to mask his hesitation with optimism. "Ready? We've got everything planned out. We're going to be amazing parents. I just know it," she said, her enthusiasm unwavering. "We even have a nursery ready. I can't wait to fill it with love and laughter." His heart swelled at her words, but a shadow lingered in the corners of his mind. They had been trying for a while now, and every month that passed without success felt like a weight added to his chest. Yet, he pushed those thoughts aside. "Of course, we'll be amazing. Together," he assured her, grabbing her hand and squeezing it gently. As they sat down to dinner, a sense of hope enveloped them both. They discussed names, envisioning future family vacations, and the little traditions they would create. The atmosphere was one of warmth, yet Jonathan couldn't shake off the nagging feeling that something was amiss. A week later, the couple found themselves sitting in a sterile, brightly lit office, the air thick with tension. The fertility specialist, Dr. Lewis, a kind-faced woman with years of experience etched into her features, entered the room carrying a folder. Jonathan's heart raced as he exchanged worried glances with Sarah. The room felt suffocating, the dreams they had spun together suddenly feeling fragile. "Thank you for coming in, Jonathan, Sarah," Dr. Lewis said, her voice calm yet firm. "I have the results of your recent tests." Jonathan watched as Sarah's eyes widened with anticipation, her fingers nervously twisting the hem of her blouse. He reached out to grasp her hand, trying to provide comfort even as anxiety coursed through his veins. "Sarah," the doctor began, her tone taking on a somber note, "I'm afraid the results are not what we hoped for. After reviewing your tests, it appears that you have a condition that affects your ability to conceive." The words hung in the air like a heavy fog, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Sarah's face fell, the bright spark extinguished in an instant. "What do you mean?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Jonathan's heart dropped as he felt the shift in the room. "What kind of condition?" he asked, his voice steadier than he felt. "Is there a chance, can we?" Dr. Lewis took a breath, choosing her words carefully. "I'm afraid that, given the current medical understanding, natural conception is not possible in your case. There are options available, such as IVF or adoption, but it's important to understand the reality of your situation." As the doctor continued explaining their options, Jonathan's world began to crumble. He felt the weight of despair settling on his shoulders, a crushing realization that their dreams of a perfect family were slipping away. He turned to Sarah, whose eyes were brimming with tears, and he felt a surge of anger rising within him. This wasn't supposed to happen. They had planned for everything. "How could this happen?" he snapped, his voice laced with frustration. "We did everything right. We were supposed to have a family." "Jonathan, please," Sarah said, her voice breaking as she tried to hold back her tears. "This isn't anyone's fault. We can explore other options." "But it's not what we wanted," he shouted, the emotion pouring out of him like a dam breaking. "You don't understand how this feels. I wanted a child with you, not a plan B." Sarah recoiled at his words, hurt flashing across her face. "I've wanted this too. It's not just you, Jonathan. I'm the one who can't have children." The realization of what he had just said hit him like a slap. Jonathan's heart raced as he watched the hurt in Sarah's eyes deepen. "I didn't mean—" "No, you did," she interrupted, her voice low and shaky. "You blame me for this, don't you?" "I know I don't. I just—" He struggled to form the right words, but the weight of his emotions was suffocating. "I can't handle this right now." Without another word, Jonathan stood up and stormed out of the office, leaving Sarah sitting there, shattered and alone. The door clicked shut behind him, and he felt a mix of anger, confusion, and regret boiling within him. How had they gotten to this point? How had a moment filled with promise turned into this nightmare? As he stepped out into the bustling city street, the noise of the world around him faded into a dull roar. He walked aimlessly, his mind racing with thoughts and emotions that he couldn't comprehend. He felt like a coward for leaving Sarah in that moment of vulnerability, yet he couldn't shake off the overwhelming sense of betrayal and fear that had consumed him. He had wanted a family, a future filled with laughter and love, but now it felt like everything was slipping through his fingers. The image of Sarah sitting in that sterile office, tears streaming down her cheeks, haunted him. And yet, the anger bubbled back up, a cruel reminder that life had dealt them a hand they had never asked for. As he walked, he realized he had a choice to make. But for now, all he could do was run from the reality he had created, a reality that felt more like a nightmare than the dream he had once envisioned. Jonathan sat at his mahogany desk, the glow of his computer screen casting a harsh light against the darkened room. Papers were strewn across the surface, proposals, contracts, and reports, each a testament to his relentless pursuit of success. To anyone looking in, he was the epitome of achievement, a man who had clawed his way to the top of the corporate ladder. Yet, despite the accolades and the wealth that surrounded him, a gnawing emptiness had taken root in his heart, one that no amount of money or recognition could fill. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples as the weight of his thoughts pressed down on him. The laughter of his colleagues echoed in the hallway outside, punctuated by clinks of glasses and the excited chatter of yet another successful deal celebration. Jonathan had long since stopped joining these gatherings. Each toast felt like a reminder of the life he had walked away from, Sarah, the dreams of a family, and the future that now seemed so distant. "Hey, Jonathan, you coming to the party?" His assistant, Mia, called out, poking her head through the door. He forced a smile, masking the turmoil beneath. "No, Mia. I have some work to finish up." Mia's face fell slightly, but she nodded, understanding the unspoken sadness that lingered in his eyes. "All right, but you know it's important to celebrate your wins, right?" "Yeah, I'll keep that in mind," he replied, allowing the door to close behind her. Alone once more, he turned his gaze to the window, watching as the city came alive with lights. Outside, life continued, vibrant and full of possibilities. He felt like a ghost, haunting the edges of a world that had moved on without him. As the weeks turned into months, Jonathan busied himself with work, burying his pain beneath layers of success. He hired a personal trainer, invested in luxurious vacations, and surrounded himself with people who barely scratched the surface of his existence. Yet, every night, as he lay in his king-size bed, the silence echoed louder than any party could mask. The memories of Sarah's laughter and their shared dreams haunted him. Meanwhile, Sarah was carving out a new life for herself. She had found a modest apartment in a friendly neighborhood, far removed from the lavish lifestyle she once knew. The walls were adorned with bright colors, filled with pictures of children, her children. After months of soul-searching and processing her heartbreak, Sarah had decided to adopt. The decision had come with its own challenges, but it had also brought her an immense sense of purpose. In the early mornings, she would wake up with a sense of excitement, greeted by the energetic giggles of her twin daughters, Lily and Grace. They were a bundle of joy, each with their own distinct personality. Lily was adventurous and bold, while Grace was contemplative and gentle. Every day was a new adventure, from arts and crafts to trips to the local park. "Mommy, look what I made," Lily exclaimed one day, running into the living room with a glitter-covered drawing. "Oh, wow, sweetheart. It's beautiful." Sarah knelt down, embracing her daughter with enthusiasm. "You're so talented." Grace joined them, holding up her own creation. "Mine is a rainbow. Can we hang them on the fridge?" "Of course." Sarah smiled, feeling her heart swell as she watched her daughters beam with pride. As they decorated the fridge, Sarah felt a warmth she hadn't experienced in a long time. The ache of losing the life she once envisioned with Jonathan was still there, but it was no longer the defining aspect of her existence. She had forged a new path, and every moment with her girls reminded her of the beauty that could emerge from pain. Back in his high-rise office, Jonathan received an invitation to a gala, an event that promised to be the social highlight of the season. He contemplated the invitation, his mind swirling with conflicting thoughts. On one hand, he craved the validation that came from being seen as a success in the eyes of his peers. But on the other, he felt an overwhelming sense of disconnection from the world around him. "Not interested," he muttered to himself, tossing the invitation aside. Yet, as the days passed, he found himself increasingly restless, feeling the weight of his loneliness pressing down on him. He started attending parties again, but the laughter felt hollow, and the conversations lacked depth. He was surrounded by people, but felt utterly isolated. During one of these parties, Jonathan found himself cornered by an enthusiastic colleague. "You need to loosen up, man. Life's too short to take everything so seriously." The man laughed, slapping Jonathan on the back. Jonathan nodded, forcing a smile, but inside he felt suffocated. "Yeah, sure. I'll keep that in mind," he replied, excusing himself to grab another drink. As he stared into his glass, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was running from something he didn't quite understand. Weeks turned into months, and Jonathan found himself spiraling deeper into a cycle of superficial relationships and fleeting pleasures. He dated women who were beautiful and charming, but lacked any meaningful connection. Conversations were filled with small talk, and intimacy felt like a performance rather than a genuine connection. Each date ended the same way, with a polite good night and the dull ache of emptiness settling back in. One night, after a particularly uninspiring dinner, he returned home and collapsed onto his couch, staring at the ceiling. He reached for his phone, scrolling through old messages and photos. Memories of Sarah flooded his mind. Her laugh, her kindness, the way she would look at him with such unwavering love. "Why did I let it go?" he whispered to himself, a wave of regret washing over him. He had chosen success over love, ambition over family, and now the void felt insurmountable. Meanwhile, Sarah was thriving. She had joined a community center where she volunteered her time, teaching art classes to children. It was fulfilling work, and she found joy in nurturing creativity in others. Every day, she felt more at peace with herself, knowing she was creating a loving environment for Lily and Grace. "Mommy, can we paint like the kids at your class?" Grace asked one day as they prepared for another art session at home. "Absolutely. Let's make a fun day," Sarah replied, her heart swelling with happiness at their enthusiasm. As they set up the supplies, laughter filled their small kitchen. The smell of paint mingled with the sound of music playing softly in the background, creating an atmosphere of warmth and love. Sarah couldn't have imagined a better life than the one she was living now, surrounded by her daughters. Yet, uncertainty still crept in at times. There were moments when she would catch herself lost in thought, wondering what could have been. But every time those thoughts surfaced, she would look at Lily and Grace, and the weight of sorrow would lift, replaced by gratitude for the life they had built together. Jonathan, on the other hand, remained trapped in a cycle of self-inflicted solitude. Each passing day became a reminder of what he had lost, and the more he tried to escape those feelings, the deeper he fell into despair. He started to realize that the parties and relationships he pursued were mere distractions from the truth he needed to confront. "Maybe it's time for a change," he murmured, his voice barely audible in the stillness of his apartment. The thought lingered. Could he face his past? Could he find a way back to the life he had abandoned? As he pondered these questions, a sense of determination began to blossom within him. Perhaps it was time to take a step towards redemption, to confront the mistakes that had defined his life thus far. But the question remained, would he have the courage to face the truth, to seek out Sarah and the life he had left behind? The path to understanding and redemption was daunting, filled with shadows of regret. But as Jonathan sat in the darkness of his apartment, he realized that the first step towards healing was accepting the pain he had caused and acknowledging the love he had lost. Jonathan strolled through the sun-dappled park, his mind wandering through the usual haze of thoughts that accompanied his busy life. The laughter of children echoed in the air, mingling with the soft rustle of leaves and the distant chirping of birds. He had taken this route countless times, often too preoccupied with business calls or the latest deal to notice the simple beauty around him. Today, however, something felt different. A sense of nostalgia tugged at his heart as he watched a mother play with her twin daughters. The girls, no older than 6, giggled as they chased each other around a patch of grass, their pigtails bouncing in rhythm with their laughter. The mother, with her hair cascading in soft waves, was radiant in the golden sunlight. For a moment, Jonathan was transported back to a time when he had dreamed of a family. He had envisioned a life filled with joy, the sound of little feet running through his home, and the warmth of shared love. The thought struck him painfully, a reminder of the dream that had slipped through his fingers. He leaned against a nearby tree, his heart racing as he observed the scene unfold before him. The mother knelt down, her arms outstretched, and the twins launched themselves into her embrace. The warmth of their laughter was infectious, but it also ignited a flicker of regret within him. What had he done? In a moment of weakness and anger, he had turned his back on everything that mattered. He had walked away from Sarah, from the possibility of a family, and he had buried himself in the hollow comforts of wealth and success. As he squinted against the sun, his breath caught in his throat. The mother's face, illuminated by joy, was unmistakable. It was Sarah. Time had etched a few more lines on her face, but the sparkle in her eyes remained, a reminder of the woman he had once loved. The realization hit him like a tidal wave. She had moved on, created a life without him, and here he was, an outsider peering into a world he had abandoned. "Mommy, look!" One of the twins squealed, pointing at a butterfly flitting about. "Can we catch it?" "Of course, sweethearts." Sarah laughed, her voice a melodious sound that echoed in his heart. "But we have to be very gentle. Butterflies are delicate creatures." Jonathan felt an overwhelming surge of emotions. The girls called her Mommy, a title he had once hoped to share with her. He imagined the life they could have had together, the laughter, the love, and the chaos of raising children. A sudden wave of longing washed over him, for the family he had dreamed of and the woman he had loved. But a bitter taste of guilt accompanied that longing, reminding him of the pain he had caused. He took a hesitant step forward, the weight of his decision bearing down on him like a heavy cloak. What would he say if he approached her? How could he face her after everything? Memories flooded back. The doctor's office, Sarah's shattered expression, his own anger and hurt spiraling out of control. He had failed her when she needed him the most, and now she had built a life without him. "Mommy, look, I caught it." One of the twins squealed, holding out her tiny hands, cupped around the fluttering creature. "Be careful, darling. You don't want to hurt it," Sarah cautioned gently, her voice filled with warmth and love. The sight of her nurturing spirit ignited a flicker of admiration within him, mingled with a poignant ache. Jonathan felt an almost magnetic pull towards them, a primal instinct to reach out and claim what was rightfully his, a family, a chance to be a father. But as he watched, the gravity of the situation settled in. He was a man who had walked away, who had chosen ambition over love. What right did he have to intrude on their lives? His heart raced with conflicting emotions, and he found himself rooted to the spot, unable to move closer. Just then, one of the girls turned her head, her bright blue eyes scanning the park. For a fleeting moment, Jonathan felt as if she were looking directly at him, a connection sparking between them. The girl's expression shifted from curiosity to recognition, and she tugged at Sarah's sleeve. "Mommy, who's that man?" she asked innocently, pointing in Jonathan's direction. Jonathan's breath hitched in his throat. He felt exposed, as if all his secrets had been laid bare before them. Sarah's gaze followed her daughter's pointing finger, and their eyes met. For a heartbeat, time stood still. The world around them faded, leaving only the two of them suspended in a moment of reckoning. "Jonathan," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the sounds of the park. There was a mix of surprise and caution in her tone, a reflection of the tumultuous history that lay between them. The use of his name sent a jolt through him. It had been years since he had heard it spoken with such familiarity, and he felt a rush of emotions: regret, longing, and a deep-seated fear of what he might lose again. Jonathan took a tentative step forward, fighting against the instinct to retreat. "Sarah," he managed, his voice thick with unspoken apologies. I didn't expect to see you here." She crossed her arms defensively, a subtle yet unmistakable barrier. "I didn't expect to see you either." Her eyes bore into his, a mixture of anger and hurt swirling within them. "What do you want, Jonathan?" He opened his mouth to speak, but found the words eluding him. How could he possibly articulate the whirlwind of emotions churning inside? He wanted to explain, to express the regret that had haunted him since that fateful day. But all that escaped him was a whisper. "I just wanted to see you, to understand." The twins, oblivious to the tension between their mother and the man who had once been a part of her life, began to chase after another butterfly, giggling and squealing with delight. Jonathan watched them, his heart aching at the sight. They were beautiful, a perfect blend of Sarah, and in that moment he could not shake the thought, what if they were his daughters too? "Please, Sarah," he implored, stepping closer. "Can we talk? Just for a moment." She hesitated, glancing back at the twins, who were now dancing around a patch of wildflowers. The innocence of their laughter contrasted sharply with the storm brewing in her heart. After a moment, she nodded curtly, leading him away from the prying ears of their children, towards a quieter part of the park. Once they reached a secluded bench, the air thick with unspoken words, Sarah turned to face him, arms still crossed. "You left, Jonathan. You left me when I needed you the most. What could you possibly say to make that right?" The accusation hung heavy in the air, and Jonathan felt the weight of it settle on his shoulders like a leaden shroud. "I was scared," he confessed, his voice trembling. "I didn't know how to deal with the reality of it all. I thought I could handle it, but I was a coward." "A coward," Sarah echoed, disbelief etched across her features. "You think that excuses what you did? You walked away from your family, for me. I was left to pick up the pieces." Jonathan swallowed hard, the bitterness of her words cutting deep. "I know," he admitted, his voice thick with regret. "I know I hurt you, and I regret it every single day. I thought I could bury myself in work, but it never filled the void. I've missed so much. I've missed you." For a brief moment, Sarah's expression softened, and the facade she had built around her heart wavered. But just as quickly, it hardened again. "I've moved on, Jonathan. I have a life now, a good life. I won't let you disrupt that." His heart sank at her words, the finality echoing in his mind. "I don't want to disrupt anything. I want to be a part of their lives. I want to know them." The desperation in his voice was palpable, a plea for understanding and a chance at redemption. Sarah's eyes narrowed, a mixture of caution and pain swirling within them. You need to understand that this isn't just about you. This is about them. They have a life, a family. I'm not sure if you can just step back in and play the role of a father after disappearing for so long. Maybe not, he conceded, his voice barely above a whisper. But I want to try. I want to make things right, even if it takes time. I can't change the past, but I want to be there for them now. The weight of his words hung in the air, and for a fleeting moment, Sarah's resolve wavered. She looked back at the twins, who were now chasing each other around a tree, their innocence a stark contrast to the complicated emotions swirling between their parents. Deep down, she knew how much he had hurt her, but she also saw the glimmer of sincerity in his eyes. "Let's take it slow," she finally said, her voice steady yet cautious. "If we're going to do this, it has to be on my terms. I need to protect them." Jonathan nodded, relief flooding through him. "I understand. Thank you, Sarah. I promise I'll prove to you that I can be the father they deserve." As they stood together, the park teeming with life around them, the path ahead felt uncertain yet. Jonathan took a deep breath as he approached Sarah, his heart pounding in his chest like a drum echoing through the bustling street. The noise of the city faded into the background, replaced by the rush of memories flooding back. Memories of laughter, dreams, and the life they once envisioned together. He could see her now, standing just a few feet away, her long hair catching the sunlight, illuminating the strength she had cultivated in his absence. She was no longer the broken woman he had left behind. She had transformed into something resilient and formidable. "Sarah," he called out, his voice barely rising above the clamor of the busy sidewalk. She turned, her expression shifting from surprise to a guarded neutrality. "Jonathan," she replied, her voice steady but cool. The distance between them felt monumental, an emotional chasm widened by years of pain and silence. He hesitated, grappling with the storm of emotions swirling inside him. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I can imagine," she replied, crossing her arms tightly across her chest, a defensive posture he recognized all too well. "You have your life, and I have mine." The words stung, a reminder of the scars he had left behind. He swallowed hard, trying to find the right words, the ones that could bridge this gap. "I know I hurt you, Sarah. I was lost. But seeing you again, I realize how much I regret my choices." She raised an eyebrow, skepticism flickering in her eyes. "Regret doesn't change the past, Jonathan. You made your choice that day, and walking away was the easiest thing you could do." Jonathan flinched at her words, each one like a dagger piercing through the facade he had built around himself. "I thought I was doing what was best. I thought I couldn't handle it. I was scared." "Scared?" Sarah scoffed, shaking her head. "You were scared of what? Of the life we dreamed of together? Of being a father? I needed you, and you left." "I know," he exclaimed, his voice rising a notch in urgency. "And I'm not here to make excuses. I can't change what happened, but I want to understand. I want to hear about your life now, about our daughters." The last word hung in the air, heavy with the weight of unspoken possibilities. At the mention of the twins, Sarah's demeanor softened, if only slightly. "They're amazing, Jonathan. They're everything I hoped for and more." A flicker of pride illuminated her features, and he could see the warmth in her eyes as she spoke of them. "They're smart, funny, and they love fiercely. They're my world." Jonathan felt a pang of longing mixed with regret. What are their names? He asked tentatively, wanting to reach further into this newfound reality. Emily and Mia, she said, her voice softening further. They were just what I needed after everything. The names rolled off her tongue like a melody he had never heard before, and Jonathan imagined their laughter, their smiles, and the warmth of their small hands in his. Can I meet them? The question slipped out before he could fully process the weight of it. Sarah's expression hardened again, and he could see the internal struggle written across her face. That's not an easy request, Jonathan. They don't know you. They've grown up without a father, and I've worked hard to protect them from the pain of my past. I understand, he said quickly, desperation creeping into his voice. But I want to be part of their lives, Sarah. I want to be a better man. For you, for them. I know I can't just walk in and expect everything to be okay, but I want to try. Her gaze bore into him, searching for sincerity. You have no idea what you're asking. They've built their lives around me, and I won't let anyone disrupt that, especially someone who abandoned us. Then let me prove it to you, he pleaded, his heart racing. Let me show you I can be the father they deserve. I'm willing to fight for it. Sarah took a step back, her arms still crossed. And what if you fail again? What if you walk away once more? I can't risk their hearts like that. They've been through enough. Jonathan felt the weight of her words like a heavy anchor, dragging him down. He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, two small figures came barreling towards them, giggling and shouting. Mommy, look at us. One of the girls, with curly hair bouncing with each step, held out her hand, proudly displaying a crumpled piece of paper. The other followed closely behind, her eyes shining with excitement. Mommy, we made a drawing for you, the first girl exclaimed, beaming with joy. Jonathan's heart twisted as he watched the scene unfold before him. They were so vibrant, so full of life, beautiful reminders of everything he had missed. Sarah knelt down, enveloping them in her arms. Oh, my girls, this is wonderful. Let's see it. She took the drawing, her eyes lighting up as she examined the colorful scribbles. You both are such talented artists. Jonathan stood frozen, a mixture of awe and despair washing over him. The twins were his daughters, yet they were strangers to him. He watched as Sarah praised them, the love she poured into each word a stark contrast to the emptiness he had felt for so long. Who's that man? The second twin asked innocently, glancing up at Jonathan with wide, curious eyes. This is a friend of Mommy's, Sarah quickly responded, her eyes darting towards Jonathan, a silent plea for him to keep his distance. The first twin tilted her head, studying him. Are you going to be my friend too? She asked, her voice sweet and innocent. Jonathan felt his heart ache at the question, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. I would love to be your friend, he replied softly, kneeling down to their level, his gaze unwavering. And maybe, one day, I could be something more. More, the second twin echoed, her brow furrowing in confusion. Like a family, he said, his voice thick with emotion. The word hung in the air, a fragile hope shimmering between them. Before he could say anything else, Sarah interjected, her voice firm yet tinged with a hint of sadness. Let's not overwhelm them, Jonathan. They need time to understand. He nodded, feeling the weight of her words. I get it, Sarah. I want to be part of their lives. I've missed so much already. The twins, oblivious to the tension in the air, giggled and began to chatter about their day, their innocent laughter a stark contrast to the heaviness that surrounded Jonathan and Sarah. Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning, a fragile moment in a complex tapestry of emotions, questions, and unhealed wounds. As he watched Sarah interact with the girls, he felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. Perhaps there was a way to mend what had been broken, to find a path forward, even if it was fraught with challenges. But for now, he had to respect Sarah's boundaries, even as his heart yearned for more. "Can we at least keep in touch?" he asked gently, his voice barely above a whisper. "I want to know how they're doing, what they like, everything." Sarah hesitated, her eyes searching his for sincerity. After a moment, she nodded, albeit reluctantly. "I'll think about it. But it won't be easy, Jonathan. You have a lot to prove." Jonathan felt a rush of gratitude flow through him. "I'll do whatever it takes," he said, determination solidifying his resolve. With that, they stood together, a tentative bridge forming between their fractured past and an uncertain future, as the laughter of the twins wove a fragile thread of connection amidst the echoes of their shared history. Jonathan stood rooted to the spot, his heart a maelstrom of emotions as he watched Sarah interact with the twins. The way she knelt down to their level, brushing their hair from their faces and showering them with affection, pierced through the layers of regret he had wrapped around himself. Memories crashed over him like waves. The laughter they once shared, the dreams of a family, the promises made in the quiet moments of their lives together. Yet, those dreams had shattered when he walked away, leaving only desolation in his wake. He couldn't shake the feeling of loss that gnawed at him. Each giggle from the twins, each affectionate "mommy" that escaped their lips, felt like a dagger, reminding him of the moments he would never get to experience. Birthdays, first steps, school plays, all of it lost to time and his own insecurities. "What have I done?" he whispered to himself, his voice barely audible over the bustling street. As if sensing his turmoil, Sarah turned slightly, her eyes locking onto his for a fleeting moment. He could see the years etched on her face, the strength she had forged through hardship. She had moved on, built a life without him, and yet here he was, standing on the fringes of that life, desperate to reclaim what he had so foolishly discarded. "Jonathan," she finally said, her voice steady yet tinged with caution, "you shouldn't be here." The words hung heavy in the air between them, a barrier he felt he needed to cross. "I know," he replied, taking a step forward, "but I need to talk to you. About everything." His resolve wavered, but he pushed through the uncertainty. "I've missed so much, Sarah. I can't keep pretending that it doesn't matter." She regarded him with a mixture of surprise and wariness. "And what do you think you can say that would change anything? You left. You chose to walk away." Her voice was calm, but he detected the hurt simmering beneath. "I was scared," he admitted, his voice cracking under the weight of his confession. "I didn't know how to handle it. I thought I could build a life without all of this, but I was wrong." There was a long silence, thick with unspoken words and buried feelings. The twins resumed their play, oblivious to the tension between their parents. Jonathan watched Sarah's expression shift, as if she were weighing the gravity of his words against the past they shared. "Scared," she echoed, her tone incredulous. "You think that justifies abandoning me? Abandoning your daughters?" Jonathan flinched at the mention of the word daughters. It was a title he had never envisioned for himself, yet now it resonated with a reality he could no longer ignore. "I want to be involved in their lives, Sarah. I want to be there for you and for them, if you'll let me. I can't change what happened, but I can try to make it right." "By what?" "Dropping in and out of their lives whenever it suits you." She crossed her arms defensively, her eyes narrowing. "You need to understand that this isn't just about you anymore. They deserve stability, not a father who shows up when it's convenient." "I get that," he replied, desperation creeping into his voice. I want to be a real father. I want to be there for them. I want to help you raise them. So you think you can just waltz back in and play the role of the doting dad? She snapped, frustration breaking through her calm demeanor. It doesn't work that way, Jonathan. You have to prove that you're serious about this. It's not just a whim for you to feel better about your past mistakes. Jonathan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. I understand. I'll do whatever it takes to show you that I mean it. I've been a fool, and I realize that now. But I want to be a part of their lives. I want to be a part of yours, if you'll let me. Let you. Sarah shook her head, her expression softening just a fraction. You think this is something I can just agree to? You don't know what it's like to raise them alone, Jonathan. It's not just about you feeling guilty. It's about their well-being. I want to help you, he insisted, stepping closer, his heart racing. Let me take them out for ice cream this weekend. Just a few hours. I promise I'll be responsible. I won't let you down. She hesitated, her gaze flickering to the twins, who were now chasing each other around a nearby fountain, laughter ringing out like music. I'll think about it, she finally said, her voice steady, but her eyes revealing the struggle within. But if I do, there will be conditions. You need to commit to being present. No half measures. Jonathan felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. I can do that. I swear I can. I just need a chance to prove it. Proving it means more than just a couple of hours on the weekend, Sarah warned, her tone serious. It means being reliable, being there when they need you, and not just when it's convenient for you. I won't put them through any more pain or confusion. I understand, he replied, his voice low and earnest. I'll do whatever it takes, Sarah. I promise I won't let you or the girls down again. Words are easy, Jonathan, she replied, her expression unreadable. It's actions that matter. You'll need to show me that you're serious. As they stood in that moment, a fragile understanding began to weave between them. The path ahead was uncertain and fraught with challenges, but for the first time, Jonathan felt a glimmer of hope. He couldn't erase the past, but perhaps he could start to mend the future. Thank you for even considering it, he said softly, his heart swelling with gratitude. I won't take this lightly. With a final look at the twins, who were now splashing in the fountain, Sarah turned her gaze back to Jonathan. Let's take this one step at a time. I'll get back to you. As she walked away, Jonathan felt a surge of determination. The road to redemption wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to fight for his family, no matter the cost.